Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas. Greg has the week off.
And I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas, the issue is.
The much anticipated presidential debate is behind us, and now we're trying to see if there will be a part 2 in October. The unknown question is anything that the candidate said, will it change the minds of those who are still undecided?
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
For the first time, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump met face to face. With about 7 weeks until the election, voters got to see side by side where the candidates stand on different policy issues. One moment of contention was on abortion.
The Democrats are radical in that, and her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting.
Throughout the debate, the moderators fact-checked Trump. Something he said post-debate was the moderator showing bias against him. Trump hit Harris on the economy, an issue that many voters say is a top concern.
She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan.
16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
That's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say.
On the border, Harris stuck to her campaign talking points about Trump urging Republicans to kill a bipartisan border deal. In the years prior to the failed deal, the Biden administration did little to stop the surge of migrants. But it was the exchange about migrants that made headlines in the days following the debate.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans.
Trump pressed Harris on flip-flopping with her opinion on topics like fracking. Harris said Trump thinks he is still running against Joe Biden. In their closing statements, both candidates pointed a stark difference for how they see the country now and in the years to come.
As a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
She's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it.
All right. My word is simple. It's encore, Rudy. What about you?
Stephen, I'm going to go with catfished.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll have a lot more to discuss right after this break. And we are back and joined by our friend Mark Jones at Rice University. Rudy, you'll be first up to bat. Did this debate sway or make a decision for swing voters?
You know, it certainly was all about the undecided vote, right, Stephen? But, you know, we're now 5 days out of this debate, and I think the only thing that most analysts agree with is that Trump and Harris provided few real answers for nearly 2 hours of debating Tuesday night. It was a really interesting show. What we did get was a lot of unchecked misrepresentations from Harris, a lot of bravado and missed opportunities by Trump, and a lot of baiting that reeled Trump in to some real political rabbit holes, which is why my word was catfish. Now, I think a New York Times headline from last week provided a good assessment for that debate. It stated, pundits said Harris won the debate. Undecided voters weren't so sure.
Mark, are debates overhyped? Are we putting too much into this? Do voters actually make their decisions based on what they hear these candidates say when there's a side-by-side?
Well, by and large, debates don't have a major impact in moving the needle in an election. In an election this close, however, a few votes one way or the other could be the difference between victory and defeat. When we look at the 7 battleground states, Trump and Harris are either tied, or at most one of them has an advantage of 1 point over the other. So at least in this case, we could see it have an overall impact.
Rudy, Texas is not a swing state, but the margin has been getting closer and closer. In 2016, Donald Trump won Texas by 9%. In 2020, he won by 5.8%. That was the closest margin since '96 when Bill Clinton was on the ballot. Do you think we can see the margin get any closer?
Yeah, you know, the sands are certainly shifting, and I think Republicans are aware of the changing demographic makeup in Texas, which is why GOP leaders like Governor Greg Abbott's been spending a lot of time in South Texas trying to court that Hispanic conservative vote. But I'm not sure if they really fully understand the shift in values that I think that what we're actually seeing and what's happening here in the state of Texas. The focus for much of the Texas culture wars that we've had over the past 20 years, you know, really has been centered and solely on the abortion issue. And that, you know, of course, clearly is still a major top topic for Democrats, but gender identity, you know, that certainly is emerging as a new wedge issue, especially for younger voters. It's notable that during this debate, a lot of time was not spent on gender identity, despite the Biden-Harris administration's rewrite of Title IX protections, which Republicans say actually undermine women's sports. It is a hot topic. You know, during the last legislative session, it was a hot topic, a lot of hot debates. We're anticipating gender identity to be discussed and debated again in January when the legislature returns. But in the short term, I think Trump most likely will win Texas, and the GOP will still keep Texas in that red box. But, you know, the Senate race between Cruz and Allred, that is still a toss-up, which is why I think shifting values in the state of Texas is still a trend that Republicans haven't really fully gotten a grasp on.
Mark, margins are getting closer. Do you think we could see a all-time closeness in the last 30 years?
No, I mean, I think for the presidential race, the actual outcome in November is going to be somewhere between the 6% in 2020 and the 9% of 2016. Harris isn't as popular as Joe Biden was, and it's going to be tough for her to actually match Biden's effort in 2020 unless there's an implosion on part of Donald Trump's campaign, which is always a possibility. But at this point, I would say Trump's increasing support among Latinos and strong support in the white community will provide him with a sufficient margin that even if youth turnout is up somewhat and African-American turnout is up somewhat, he'll win by the margin he won by in 2020 or a little better.
All right, yes or no question to both of you. Rudy first. Will these two debate again next month? Rudy.
I think it's a good 50-50 shot. I would like to see another rematch. I think it would be great.
What about you, Mark?
I think it depends on the polls. If they are both stuck in a tie, they may both agree to it. But if one of them is a big advantage as we move into the next month, then that person is going to be very reluctant to hold another debate.
I think we're going to see it again. That's all the time we have. To see this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channels and keep the conversation going by interacting with us on social media.
And our good friend Greg Grugan will be back with us next week, and we will be back with another hot topic, and the issue is.